What if I told you that falling for an email scam has nothing to do with how smart you are or how well you understand technology? Last month, a researcher at a major university analyzed over 15,000 email scam attempts targeting Americans aged 50 and older. Here's what shocked everyone. The scammers are not counting on you being confused by computers. They are counting on something far more calculated. They are exploiting specific psychological patterns that actually get stronger with age and experience. The traits that made you successful in life, the very instincts you have relied on for decades, these are exactly what scammers weaponize. And here is the part that should make you angry. They know it works. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how they do it, and more importantly, how to shut it down. Let me tell you about Nancy. She is a 70-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. Last Tuesday morning, she was sitting at her kitchen table with her coffee, scrolling through emails on her tablet. That is when she saw it, an email from her bank's fraud department. The logo was perfect. The formatting looked exactly right, and the message hit her like a cold wave. Your account has been compromised. Suspicious activity detected. Click here to verify your identity immediately. Here is what made her hands shake. She had just bought a new laptop online the day before. The timing felt too perfect to be fake. She felt concern, sure, but also relief. Thank goodness her bank caught it, right? Her finger hovered over the link. Something made her pause. Nancy's near miss was not luck. It was one moment of hesitation against a psychological attack that took years to perfect. So what is really happening here? Researchers at a major behavioral economics research center wanted to know. They tracked email scam attempts over 12 months, 43,000 attempts. They compared how adults over 50 responded versus younger people. And what they found should make you pay attention. Here is the surprising part. Once older adults identify a scam, they get significantly better at spotting future attempts. Your pattern recognition actually improves with that first exposure. But here's where the numbers get dark. Adults over 60 are 3 times more likely to engage with scam emails than people under 40. 3 times. And when engagement turns into financial loss, the damage is brutal. The average loss for someone over 60 is $18,200 per incident. Compare that to $4,600 for younger victims. Now get this. Scammers only get responses from 2.3% of the emails they send. Sounds low, right? But that tiny percentage translates to millions of dollars extracted from people just like you. And here is what most people do not realize. These are not one-time attacks. The researchers found that successful scams are multi-step psychological campaigns lasting 3 to 7 days. So what are these psychological traits, and why do they work so effectively on experienced, intelligent people? Here is what most people get wrong about email scams. And this misconception is dangerous because it keeps people silent when they need to speak up. Myth number 1, scam victims do not understand technology. Wrong. Scammers are not exploiting confusion about computers. They are exploiting trust in authority. You can be a software engineer and still fall for a well-crafted scam because the attack is not technical. It is psychological. Myth number 2, it is about being gullible or naive. Listen carefully. The psychological triggers work precisely because you are experienced. You have spent decades learning to trust certain patterns, official letterheads, professional language, institutional authority. These patterns served you well in a world where most institutions were trustworthy. Scammers weaponize that learned trust. Myth number 3, younger people are safer because they grew up with technology. Not even close. Older adults are targeted because you typically have more assets, established accounts, and predictable life patterns. You are the high-value target. Here is the truth. Scammers are psychological engineers. They study human behavior the way a locksmith studies locks. And the traits they exploit? Conscientiousness, respect for authority, desire to help others. These are not weaknesses. These are strengths that built your life. The truth is, scammers are using 5 specific psychological patterns against you. And once you see them clearly, they lose their power. So here is what we are going to do. I'm going to walk you through all 5 psychological tactics in countdown order. Number 5 to number 1. And I am telling you right now, number 1 is going to surprise you. It involves a trait you probably consider one of your greatest strengths, something you have cultivated your entire life. For each tactic, we are covering three things: what it is, why it works specifically on older adults, and the exact counter move to shut it down. No vague advice. No, just be careful nonsense. Specific, actionable defense strategies. But before we dive into these 5 tactics, I want to hear from you. Drop your age and state in the comments below. No judgment, just community. And tell me this: have you or someone you know ever received a suspicious email that felt just a little too urgent, a little too official? We read every single comment, and your experience might help someone else recognize what they are facing. Your story matters. The more we talk about this openly, the harder it gets for scammers to operate in the shadows. All right, let us start with number 5 and work our way to the most powerful tactic that scammers save for their highest value targets. Number 5, temporal pressure, or what researchers call manufactured urgency. Here is how it works. Scammers create artificial deadlines to force immediate action before your critical thinking can engage. And here is why this hits older adults so hard. You spent decades in professional and personal roles where being reliable and responsive mattered. Someone needed something, you delivered. Fast. That trait served you well. It built your career, your reputation, your relationships. But now, that same reliability becomes a vulnerability. A Decision Science Institute analyzed response times across thousands of participants. When adults over 55 received emails with urgent language like within 24 hours or immediate action required, their response rate jumped 340% compared to non-urgent emails. The same urgency markers only increased response rates by 140% in younger people. You are more than twice as responsive to urgency. Scammers know this. So what does temporal pressure look like? First, countdown language. Your account will be suspended in 24 hours. Second, threat escalation. Failure to respond will result in legal action. Third, impossible timelines. Here is the key. Legitimate institutions give you days or weeks, not hours. Now here is the crucial detail most people miss. Any legitimate financial institution will confirm urgent matters through multiple channels. If it is truly urgent, you will receive a phone call, a text message, and a letter. Not just one email. Create a personal rule right now. Any email demanding action within 24 hours gets a manual verification call to the institution using a number you look up yourself, never the number in the email. Enforce a mandatory 2-hour waiting period before any action. 2 hours breaks the urgency spell. Now, temporal pressure is just the beginning. Tactic number 4 goes deeper because it targets something you probably pride yourself on. Number 4, authority compliance bias. Let me explain why this one cuts so deep. If you grew up in the 1950s through 1970s, you were socialized in an era when authority figures were rarely questioned. Your doctor knew best. Your banker was trustworthy. Government officials operated with integrity. This is not about being naive. This is about operating from a framework where legitimate authority actually was trustworthy most of the time. That generational trait of respecting authority becomes a direct vulnerability when scammers impersonate these figures. A behavioral psychology center tracked 8,600 participants over age 60. When an email claimed to be from the IRS, a bank, or Medicare, recipients were 280% more likely to comply compared to generic sender emails. But here is the part that should concern you. Even when participants suspected something was wrong, 41% still complied. Why? Because what if it is real and I ignore it? So how do you recognize impersonation? First, generic greetings. Real institutions use your full name, not dear customer. Second, check sender email addresses character by character. Look at this, support@bankofamerica.security.com. That is not Bank of America. Third, mismatched urgency. The IRS never demands immediate payment via email. Never. Here is the game-changing detail. Create a personal verification protocol. Write down the official phone numbers and websites for your bank, Medicare, IRS, and Social Security. Laminate it. Keep it by your computer. When you receive any email from these authorities, you call them directly using your verified numbers. Yes, it takes 15 minutes. 15 minutes can save you $15,000. If this is making sense so far, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us reach more people who need to hear this, and we're going to keep going deeper into how these scammers operate. Tactic number 3 is where scammers start playing with your emotions in a very specific way. Number 3, reciprocity exploitation. This one makes my blood boil because it weaponizes human decency. Here is the principle. When someone does something for you, you feel obligated to return the favor. That is reciprocity. And if you grew up in an era with stronger social contracts and community obligations, this trigger hits especially hard. The scammer poses as someone who has already helped you or is offering help. That creates an automatic debt response in your brain. You feel like you owe them. Researchers at a West Coast university studied 2,400 participants. When emails framed the scam as "we noticed suspicious activity and protected your account," recipients over 60 were 410% more likely to provide personal information compared to emails that simply requested information. The language of having already received help created a powerful obligation to reciprocate with compliance. So what does reciprocity exploitation look like in your inbox? First, we have already secured your account, followed by requests for verification. Second, as a courtesy, we are offering you something that triggers the feeling of receiving a gift. Third, phrases like "we went ahead and" or "we took care of that" position the scammer as having already acted on your behalf. Fourth, surveys or feedback requests that offer small rewards designed to make you feel like you should participate. Here is the crucial insight. Legitimate companies do not create artificial debts. If you did not ask for help, you do not owe anything in return. Train yourself to recognize the reciprocity frame by asking one question before responding to any email. Did I initiate this interaction, or are they claiming they initiated it for my benefit? If they initiated it, red flag. Real fraud departments respond to alerts. They do not proactively email you out of the blue. Let me give you a real example. Robert in Florida received an email saying, "We noticed 3 suspicious charges on your account, totaling $847. We have temporarily blocked these transactions to protect you. Please verify your identity to restore full account access." Robert felt grateful that his bank was protecting him. That feeling of gratitude made him click. The account emptied within 48 hours. The protection was the attack. Now we are getting into the tactics that make me angry, because number 2 specifically targets one of your greatest strengths as someone with life experience. Number 2, the consistency trap, also called commitment escalation. Humans have a deep need to remain consistent with past actions. Once you say yes to something small, you are far more likely to say yes to something bigger. If you built a career on being reliable and following through, this trait becomes weaponized. A Consumer Behavior Institute found that when adults over 55 completed even one small action in response to a scam email, they were 670% more likely to comply with subsequent requests for financial information. Younger participants showed only a 280% increase. Here is how it works. Step 1, harmless email asking you to confirm your email address. Step 2, they ask for your mailing address. Step 3, now that you have engaged twice, they ask for account details or payment. Each small compliance makes the next request feel like a natural continuation. Your brain categorizes you as someone who responds to this sender. Each request feels like completing something you already started. Here is the crucial detail. Every new email is a new decision, even if it references a previous exchange. Create a hard reset rule. If any email exchange asks for financial information, account numbers, or passwords, stop the entire chain. Call the institution directly. Dorothy in Arizona confirmed her service address with her utility company. 2 days later, they asked for her account number to process a refund. She provided it. 3 days later, her checking account was drained. And now we arrive at number 1. This tactic exploits something you probably consider one of your best qualities. Number 1. Prosocial vulnerability, or what I call the helper's trap. The most powerful exploit is not about fear. It is about your desire to help others. Scammers create scenarios where you believe you are helping someone in need, a grandchild in trouble, a charity after a disaster, a veteran who needs assistance. Your willingness to help becomes the weapon used against you. A neuroscience lab used brain imaging on 340 participants. When adults over 60 saw requests framed as helping someone in distress, they showed higher activation in empathy regions and lower activation in skepticism regions. Help framing decreased critical evaluation by 58% in older adults versus 31% in younger adults. The effect was strongest in those who scored highest on lifetime generosity. What does this look like? Emails claiming a family member is in legal trouble. Charity appeals after disasters. Romance scams where someone needs help with medical bills. Appeals that flatter your expertise. We need someone with your experience. Here is the game-changing detail. Create a family verification code right now. A secret word only your family knows. If anyone claims to be in trouble and needs money, they must provide that code word. No exceptions. If any email asks you to help by providing information, reverse the script. Give me your supervisor's name and phone number, and I will call you back to verify. Legitimate requests welcome verification. Scams evaporate. These 5 tactics target your strengths, not your weaknesses. Your reliability, your respect for authority, your generosity, your consistency, your desire to help. These are qualities that built your life. Scammers exploit traits that served you well for decades. The transformation is not about becoming cynical. It is about adding one extra step: verification. You can still be helpful and trusting. You just verify first. Which tactic surprised you most? Which protective strategy will you implement first? Tell me in the comments. If you know someone over 50 who needs to hear this, share this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.